You are Locked On Knicks POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports New York on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It wasn't pretty or efficient, but it's the result that matters, as is every day in the NBA. The Knicks escaped Charlotte with a victory. Final score 99-98, a skinny little point. Jalen Brunson led the way with 31, and now the Knicks finally get to return home after nearly 2 weeks on the road. Hello, everyone. I'm Jay Berman. If you're familiar with my work, that means you might be in New York. If not, welcome aboard. I've spent more than 2 decades in the biz, everything from TV to web to radio. You can follow me, as always, on X at Jay Berman. That's JayBerman. Welcome to the Locked On Knicks postcast, both on the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel and the Locked On Knicks podcast feed. The postcast gives you a place to hang out after every single Knicks game. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. We'll chat everything Brunson, who kept his team in the game, especially early. The 5-game road trip now in their rear view mirrors as the Knicks get to return home after a win, which is always much nicer than coming home after a loss, obviously. The numbers aren't pretty, especially early in the game. We talked about the early struggles after yet another 15-point first quarter. We'll get into it. All that coming up on the postcast. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. And before we get started, want to let you know your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Knicks Daily Newsletter, one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now. LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. Start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. All right, as we said, a 99-98 victory for the Knicks over the Charlotte Hornets, and 5-game road trips are now a thing of the past. No more of them. In fact, that was the season-long 5-game road trip. So at worst, we're looking at 4 games away from MSG. We'll get to that coming up. As we said, Jalen Brunson led the way. He had 31 of 9 of 18 shooting. This game got off to a rough start, really, for both sides. And that's where we will begin, where perhaps some rust coming off a loss, coming off Thanksgiving, and a noon local tip time. And we saw exactly what we expected to see in the first quarter. The Knicks had 8 first quarter turnovers, 13 first half turnovers, and they finished the game with 19 turnovers. So that's not good. They averaged 12 a game, which is the second fewest in the NBA. Not to mention the 4 shot clock violations between the two teams in the very first quarter. So again, not just the Knicks, but the Hornets as well, getting off to a very slow start, which is to be expected. 1, after Thanksgiving, and 2, Black Friday noon tip time. Not exactly ideal, but of course, they're highly paid professionals, so you got to go out and do it, and that's exactly what the Knicks did, especially after a 15-point first quarter. They scored 15 in the first quarter the other night in Dallas. That was a season low. Well, they tied it tonight. Again, 23-15 after the first quarter. Knicks bounced back with a strong second quarter. They outscored Charlotte by 5 in the second quarter, 31-26. As we look at the numbers, as we said, Jalen Brunson had 31, and believe it or not, he was a plus-minus. He was even. So as many points as he put up when they were on the floor, well, that's as many as they went up against when he was on the floor. 9 of 12 from the field for Jalen Brunson, from the line for Jalen Brunson, as he continues to stick daggers in the hearts of the opponents at the line. And he was the only Knick to go to the line more than twice, and he went there 12 times. Again, 9 of 18 from the floor, 4 of 6 from 3, 9 of 12 from the line. Brunson also had 6 assists, a steal, and a block. He had 31. Karl-Anthony Towns 8 of 16 from the floor. He had 19 points, was a +5 in the plus-minus category. But we have to speak about the combination of Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby continuing to struggle. 2 games back in Denver was the game of the season for New York. They put up a season-high 145. In fact, no team has put up that many points in a season this stretch through it. So that was the most points any team has scored. It was a career-high night for OG Anunoby as well. He pumped in 40. He had never pumped in 40 in his career. Anyways, point being, after they got done with Denver, Anunoby had a poor game in Dallas, as did Mikal Bridges. And then once again, there were rough spots tonight. Bridges 3 for 10, Anunoby 3 for 11. They combined to hit just 1 3-pointer. They were 1 of 8 combined, 6 of 21 combined from the floor. And again, OG and Mikal Bridges had just 8 points each. And again, the Knicks were still lucky enough and fortunate enough to emerge victorious 99-98. Brandon Miller, who of course was the focus defensively for the Knicks, the big 6'9" forward, took 25 shots tonight, made just 7 of them, had a team high 20, but again, no real stars on the Charlotte Hornets side. They are incredibly beat up, which makes the outcome, yes, a little bit more questionable, if you will. LaMelo Ball, calf soreness, did not play. 5 of the top 6 scorers in the Hornets lineup not in there today for the game, and yet the Knicks still only won by 1, 91-98. The bench was shortened once again. We saw Jericho Sims campaign and Deuce McBride, and what a season Deuce McBride has turned in. So far, he played 27 minutes, 5 of 9 shooting, 2 3-pointers, had 14 points, 5 rebounds, was a +4, and obviously contributed defensively as well, as the Knicks held the Charlotte Hornets underneath their season point total average, and they scored just 98 points. The Knicks are now 11-8 overall, and 6-6 on the road. And we finally get to return home, as we said, beginning on Sunday. We'll get to that. A 4-game homestand before the Knicks head back out on the road again for 3 more. That's not for a couple of weeks into mid-December. And again, we'll get back to that. So the Knicks bounce back nicely. They finish up their road trip nicely. They are 3-2 on the road trip. Again, wins in Phoenix, Denver, and Charlotte, losses in Utah and Dallas. And again, there were blowouts there. We saw a blowout in Phoenix. We saw a blowout in Utah. We saw a blowout in Denver. And to be fair, the Knicks were never really in it in Dallas either. So the only close game of the 5 really was today. And you figured this might be the easiest of the 5 games. It was not. It was a struggle. Day after Thanksgiving, noon local tip time. Very interesting afternoon for the Knicks, to say the least. All right, we'll get back into the numbers on both sides. And, of course, we have to discuss the NBA Cup, which, believe it or not, in case you didn't see the incredibly aqua-colored floor today for the Hornets, yes, it was the NBA Cup. We'll break that down. And, of course, we'll get to the schedule as well. All right, we'll start by telling you that this postcast is brought to you by Skylight. Missing someone this holiday season and want them to be a part of your festivities from afar? Well, we've got the perfect gift for you. Skylight Frame is the touchscreen digital photo frame for your whole family. They're going to love it. Upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch, and let them appear in seconds. We got one for my grandmother in Florida, and believe it or not, she loves it. It's so easy to use. Setup takes less than 60 seconds. Sharing photos is seamless. Invite friends and family to easily share photos via the free Skylight mobile app or email account. No subscription required. Photos are displayed in HD resolution. You can choose from 5 different frame styles and 2 sizes. And now, As a special limited time offer for our listeners, get $20 off your purchase of a skylight frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NBA. That's skylightframe.com/NBA. skylightframe.com/NBA. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/NBA. All right, we are back after a 99-98 win for the Knicks over the Hornets in Charlotte. As we said, the road trip finally over. 11 days on the road, which professional athletes may not seem like a lot, but 2 weeks away, living out of a suitcase, I'm sure it's difficult. It can't not be. So an 11-game road trip is now history. 5 games on that road trip. And as we said, the season-long 5-game road trip. And the Knicks completed with a 3-2 record. Which, considering they were 2-2, you'll take the 3-2. Here's how it went down. A big win in Phoenix, wherein the Knicks were incredible. Jalen Brunson had 36. In Utah, they lost. OG had 27. Then OG's career night in Denver, when the Knicks put up 145, he had a career-high 40. That's right. He had never put up 40 in an NBA game until that Denver game. Then in Dallas, they lost, really a wire-to-wire loss despite 37 from Brunson, 31 tonight from Jalen, the captain, and the Knicks beat the Hornets in Charlotte to wind up the road swing with a 3-2 mark. And again, the Knicks are 11-8, 6-6 away. Again, they played 19 games. 12 of them have been on the road. So some much-needed home cooking coming up for the Knicks. As we said, they return home Sunday. They have games Sunday against New Orleans, Tuesday against Orlando, these same Hornets on Thursday, next Saturday against Detroit, then back out on the road for Toronto, Minnesota, and New Orleans. It's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks here for the Knicks, who continue to tread water despite the fact that they are 11-8. Things could be better. Things could be worse. We are sort of middling, if you will, despite the fact that we know the Knicks have probably the most talent in the Eastern Conference, perhaps with the exception of the Boston Celtics. The Knicks have back-to-back losses just once this season. They're now 7-1 after losses. So that has been a good job there by Tibbs to have his team ready coming up after losses. For Brunson, his 6th 30-plus point performance this season. That, despite, we said, the incredibly slow start for both teams. Turnovers-wise, the Knicks had 19, way above their average for a game, which is 12, the second fewest in the NBA, to be exact. So the Knicks have averaged of 12 turnovers per game. They had 19 tonight, 13 in the first half, 8 in the first quarter. And believe it or not, this one is amazing. There were 4 shot clock violations in the very first quarter, in the very first half of the first quarter between the two sides today. So what does that tell you about a noon tip time after Thanksgiving and after Big Wednesday? Well, the teams were a little slow out of the gates, to say the least. We said it was an NBA Cup game. Both the Knicks and Hornets are in Group A of the NBA Cup. The Knicks are 3-0 to start. Same good fortune, not with the Hornets, who are 0-3. And again, the next NBA Cup game for the Knicks will be their second game of this upcoming 4-game homestand on Tuesday against Orlando. And again, that is at Madison Square Garden. All right, inside the numbers, just 4 players for Charlotte were in double figures. Brandon Miller had 20. Josh Green had 15. And KJ Simpson had 11 off the bench. As for the Knicks, just 4 players in double digits. Deuce McBride had 14 off the bench. Karl-Anthony Towns had 19. Obviously, we said Brunson, his 6th 30-plus point performance of the season. Folks, yes, he's the captain. Yes, he's the best player on the team, perhaps the most valuable player on the team. But he's not there to pump in 35 a night, and that's exactly what he's doing. Again, the Knicks have played just 19 games. They're 11-8. 6+ games now of at least 30 points for Brunson this season. So excellent stuff. Again, as we said, the Knicks even up their record on the road. They're now 6-6 heading home. And we discussed those 5 games on the road. And now we're going to discuss those 4 games at home. As we said, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, New Orleans, Orlando, Charlotte, Detroit. Obviously, all those night games. The Sunday game, another NFL Sunday for your Knickdom, if you will. A 6 p.m. Eastern time tip from New Orleans. From the Garden versus New Orleans as the Knicks meet the Pelicans for the first time this season. Deuce McBride, he has been a revelation, really coming off the bench, solidifying the backcourt for the Knicks. And despite the fact that the Knicks were 4-1 with Deuce on the bench, or at least not playing, he was out with the illness and then obviously the sore left knee. But again, they went 4-1 without him. What does that mean? Who knows what that really means? I don't think there is an explanation. What I do know is that when he does play, the Knicks are better off for it. He played 27 minutes, 5 of 9 from the floor, 2 of 5 from 3, had 5 rebounds and an assist, did not turn the ball over, and again, had 14 and was a +4. As for those turnovers, there were plenty of them. 6 from Karl-Anthony Towns. Believe it or not, he was a +5 in the plus-minus category. And what's interesting on the stat line for Karl-Anthony Towns, had 4 personal fouls. I can't remember the last time I saw this. 4 personal fouls, all of them offensive fouls. Think about that. And there were actually a couple of calls that could have gone against him that didn't. And that certainly would have changed things if there was no cat down the stretch. He played 39 minutes. Hart played 41. OG again in the 40s. He played 40 minutes tonight despite just 3 of 11. Knicks were 12 of 32 from 3, 36 of 81 from the floor. That's 44%, 38% from 3, but they're hitting their foul shots, and they do that every night, and they do it better than anyone in the NBA. Knicks leading the league in free throw percentage. They shot 15 of 19 from the floor tonight. Assists to turnovers, not great. 20 assists, 19 turnovers. And to give you an idea of how things went just a couple of nights ago in Denver, how about 45 assists to just 9 turnovers? Again, tonight, 20 assists to 19 turnovers, which is just ugly. We'll take our final break of the night here on the Locked On Knicks postcast as the Knicks beat the Hornets tonight, 99-98. All right, hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed, when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, FanDuel.com. One more time, FanDuel.com. All right, it's the Locked On Knicks postcast as the Knicks and Hornets did battle in Charlotte, and it was a Knick win, thankfully, 99-98, the skinniest of victories. Just one single point separated these two squads. Knicks were outscored by 8 after 1, but they outscored the Hornets by 5 in the second. So it really was a single-digit deficit for both teams pretty much the entire way. In fact, 9 lead changes. That's right. 9 lead changes, and the Knicks again win it 99-98. All right, looking ahead, Sunday for New Orleans at the Garden as we return home. As we said, 11 days on the road for the Knicks, basically 2 weeks living out of a suitcase. A 5-game trip, Phoenix, Utah, Denver, Dallas, and Charlotte. The Charlotte tacked onto the end of the West Coast swing was particularly cruel. Regardless, it's behind us. They got the win. They were 3-2 on the trip, again with wins in Phoenix, Denver, and Charlotte, losses in Utah and Dallas. OG Anunoby 3 games ago had a 40-point performance. He has been struggling, to say the least, since. Anunoby just 8 points tonight. Same goes for Mikal Bridges, who still, despite the fact that we're about a quarter of the way through the regular season, still can't find his jump shot, still can't find that 3-point touch. 1 of 4 from beyond the arc tonight for Bridges. He played 37 minutes, 3 of 10 shooting, and had just 8 points. And if you're wondering about anything else on the stat line, did have 2 steals, but 2 assists and 2 rebounds. He's really not contributing much and was a minus 14 in the plus minus category. So again, the Knicks have seen OG get hot, and when he does, they usually win. We have not seen Mikal Bridges get hot, and that is something that needs to happen soon. Again, Knicks 12 3-pointers, 19 turnovers. Never a good combination, but the fact that the Charlotte Hornets were so banged up, not as talented, that's the reason why the Knicks emerged victorious. As we said, no LaMelo Ball, calf soreness. He is their number one player, pumping in over 30 per game. So the Knicks were fortunate not to have to deal with him. Again, 99-98 is the final score. The Knicks will wrap up their 5-game swing, 3-2. All right, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Knicks daily newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. Start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. Also want to mention our partners in crime over at Locked On Knicks. That's Gavin Shaw and Alex Wolf, the All-Stars. They handle the stuff over at Locked On Knicks. They're the best. Follow, subscribe, and enjoy. As we said, a 99-98 win for the Knicks over the Hornets. The Knicks are now 11-8 overall, 6-6 away. They return home the first of 4. They'll play New Orleans, Orlando, Charlotte, and Detroit. So perhaps a little lightening of the schedule coming up. Again, Sunday at 6, we'll be with you then. That's when the Knicks will play the Pelicans. We'll be with you on the podcast afterwards. As you've been watching the Locked On Knicks postcast, Knicks beat the Hornets. My name is Jay Berman. Remember to follow me on X at Jay Berman, Jayberman. Again, we'll see you Sunday night.